We are in the process now of actually building a brand new office. I haven't even made this announcement officially with the our patients yet, but it's we had
So
that
this is
space.
breaking news here.
Oh, it's breaking
Here
news
we
because
go.
honestly, it's been so long in the offing with the township and the paperwork and all
Yeah.
these different things that have had to happen. But it's finally looking like it's really coming together. And if you told me back in 2017 when I was sitting around staring at a wall waiting for the phone to ring, hey, in 2023 you're not going to fit in this office anymore. You're going to be it's going to be too busy and you're going to need more room. I would have laughed. I would have laughed in your face and I would have said you're crazy. That's absurd. This place is massive. And I only had at that point 3 of my 5 operatories actually outfitted. The other 2 I didn't even use them. We didn't even have the chairs in there because I didn't need them.
Welcome to YMI Talking, a podcast where the guests are so good, you'll wonder why the host is even talking. In each episode, you will hear one of the leaders of the Lehigh Valley's vibrant business hub. They will tell you the keys to their success, the mistakes they've made, and what they have in store for the future. Here is the host of YMI Talking, from YMI Insurance, Jimmy Honachik.
All right. We are back with another episode of Why Am I Talking? And this one is a first of its kind. We have not had anyone in the medical profession yet, so I'm very excited about this. Dr. Jose Gill comes to us from Hamilton Dental Designs on Hamilton Boulevard in Allentown. And besides, being a dentist and being a very cool guy, what he is doing there is unbelievable. I've heard his story. I knew I had to have him on. He is a business leader, and it's really exciting to have him here. So I'm excited to learn the business of a medical industry and how you've taken it from what it was to what it is. So, Dr. Jose Gill, thank you for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me, Jimmy. I'm excited. I'm excited to be here. Thanks, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So, let's start with how you get into dentistry. What inspires you? Why do you become a dentist?
Yeah. Well, my father's a physician, and he's actually the black sheep of the family because his mother and his father and his grandfather and great uncles were all dentists. And my grandmother was actually the first female dentist in the Dominican Republic, where my family is from.
Wow.
I actually planned on going to medical school when I was in college, and by my second year of college, I kind of thought, I don't really know that that's exactly what I want to do. I know that I wanted to help people, but I'm a very tactile person. I like working with my hands, and I started kind of seeing a lot of the artistry that is involved in something like dentistry, and I kind of got drawn to that. And so I made the decision. I was like, I'm going to, I think, follow my roots a little bit deeper, and that's why I made the decision to go there. My sister's also a dentist, as it turns out, too, as is my wife and my father-in-law. So I'm like surrounded by dentites.
So, Thanksgiving has to be pretty interesting. You all get together and talk dentistry?
You would think, but not too much. My dad doesn't know the first thing about dentistry. He's a neurologist and a very good one at that. But he doesn't like the sight of blood, so we don't talk about like dental surgeries and stuff like that. And usually when I talk with my father-in-law or my wife, we're usually talking more about the business aspect of things. That the dentistry itself, we leave for the office.
Yeah. So you go to school and then you decide to become a dentist. What's the next step? Like, I know for doctors you go through residency. What you graduate dental school? What happens next?
Yeah, for a lot of dentists, it's residency as well. There's a lot of different specialties within dentistry. My wife is a specialist, for instance. She's an endodontist, so she does root canals and root surgeries on teeth, and that's a 2-year residency after you graduate dental school. I graduated as a general dentist, but I still did a year of residency after that. What's called a general practice residency. So I worked in a hospital and gained some more experience. But really, dentistry is a private practice profession, and that's kind of the way that it's built. And so For most people in the dental field, that means getting a job at a private practice somewhere. You work as an associate for somebody else. Usually that's the way it goes, or you work for a corporate dental office, and you work like a franchise dental office. But it's very much kind of like an apprenticeship sort of thing. You work for somebody usually for a few years, and then you either buy into the practice as a partner, or you buy that other person out if they're getting ready to retire.
Which is exactly what you did, right?
Not really. No, I worked for somebody else for about 3.5 years. I worked at a busy
Yep.
practice in Easton for a dentist over there, and then I decided to branch out and open my own office close to where I live in Macungie. And I did something that's pretty unusual, which is I just kind of hung a shingle. A buddy of mine is a commercial broker, came to me one day and he's like, "Hey, there's like 2,200 square feet in this new building over here. They don't know what to do with it." And, I think it's a good place for you to open up a dental office if you want. And I talked to Julie about it, to my wife, and we decided, yeah, we're gonna do it. And it's really nerve wracking to open up your own office and take on even more debt beyond your student debt, and just basically hang up a shingle with no patience at
Yeah.
all to start out, and just say, well, here I am, and see what
And
happens.
so you didn't have the roots in the valley. Like I could see it. All right, you grew up in the valley. Maybe you don't have any clients now, but you know enough people. You can bring people in. You truly are starting a scratch dental practice. I mean, I've had people on this show in similar boats, and I'm always just blown away by the courage that takes. What gave you the confidence, like you said, to take on that debt, that you were going to make this work?
If I'm being totally honest, Jimmy, probably naivety, like ignorance, like
Yeah.
not even realizing what that was going to totally entail. I think it ultimately ended up being the right decision. It ended up being a great decision. But if you go into it thinking about all of the pitfalls and all of the potential problems and all of the stress that you're going to have, I mean, I do think sometimes it takes a little bit of just putting on the blinders and doing something without really thinking too much about the consequences, and kind of just taking that jump. But you're right, without any ties, like without having any real reputation here in the area in Lower Macungie Township where I am, you just have to go out there and have some faith, some blind faith, and that things are going to work out.
And so walk me through that moment, right? You have hung your shingle. Hamilton Dental Designs is open. What is it like? I mean, what are you doing to try to get people in the door? What's going through your mind? I can't imagine. It terrifies me. So walk me off the edge right now.
So we opened the office in November of 2016, and at the time it was me and two other people. One person was Karen. She was at my front desk, and she just basically did the whole front desk. That's now a 3-person job, and it really should be 4 people up there. Wow. But she did it all by herself back then. And I had one other person who worked with me. She was my first hygienist, and she was also my assistant. And sometimes we'd see a patient or two in a day. Sometimes we wouldn't see anybody. And we'd literally sit around the phone and wait for the phone to ring and just talk. I remember I actually would take some of my business cards and I would run them across the street to the Target and the Costco and stuff. And I would literally leave them with people that were working there. I'd be like, "Hey, I'm a dentist across the street if you need a dentist." I was literally door to door shopping out my shop. And, it was a very scary time. We had my first son, Evan, was about a year and a half old, around that time. And my wife was pregnant with our second child, our daughter. And, we had just bills that started to started coming in, and we had all this extra debt that we had just taken on top of my student debt and Julie's student debt and the mortgage and everything. And it was just we were counting pennies back in those days. But,
Yeah.
we knew we were in the right location. So when you ask, how do you know, how do you get yourself busy? What do you do? I mean, you've had a few really excellent marketing people on here, and I've heard a lot of really awesome things that some of these guys have said about how to make yourself how to put yourself out there in today's world. And I've told a lot of young people who are looking to get into dentistry or who are looking to open up their office, I mean, this is what's worked for me anyway. There's three things that go into kind of like opening a successful dental office. And I think number one is location. It's getting nowadays to where like people don't really have to get in their cars to go most anywhere to do anything, right? I mean, you can shop from home, you can get your groceries, you can order food, you can, people come to you now. And dentistry is one of those things where you still kind of have to get in your car and go there. Like the dentist isn't going to come to your house. Like you have to go, right?
100%. Yeah.
So, if people have to drive, and some people will fly if you're providing a unique enough service, to go see you. But, if you want to see these patients on a routine basis, it needs to be somewhere that's very accessible for them and convenient. So location is a big deal. The second thing I think is your online presence, which speaks to a lot of what your marketing guys were saying, in some of your earlier podcasts. Is I tried everything. I was in newspapers, I was in magazines, I was on grocery carts. Like in the grocery store, you know what I mean? When I first opened, I was like, I don't even know what to do. And in all honesty, you can't beat Google. You just can't beat the impact of good reviews, a nice clean website that looks updated and fresh, and that social proof that people say, hey, I've been here. This place is really, really great. You should totally check it out. And it makes a huge difference, for better or worse, because I think as any business owner will say, it can be really unfair sometimes when you get a Google review, if it's, but it can be very helpful as well. And then, finally, it's word of mouth referrals. That's probably the third thing. And that's probably the best of all, because what happens with those is, it's honest. It propagates itself. You know what I mean? It's a positive feedback mechanism. Because if somebody goes and tells somebody else, "Hey, I went to this dental office. I went to this place, and it was just an awesome experience," and they send somebody else over, then you're doing something right. And that has been a huge thing. When we get people sending over, family members and friends, and it's been a blessing for us, but it's been huge. Yeah.
And what I think is interesting about those three things is they kind of feed into each other, and there's got to be almost they really, I don't know how to put it, but you've got location, right? So people are driving by it, they're seeing it, it's convenient to where they live. You have an online presence, so they've seen your physical location, but the customer journey, I mean, they're going to look for you online, and if you've got that online presence, now you got two things rooting for you. And then if they just happen to have a friend who says something, I mean, forget about it. That combination, I would imagine, really, really feeds into itself.
It does, Jimmy. And I know offices that and for what it's worth, there may be great ROI in this. There may be, it might be a pretty savvy business move, but I tend to be a little bit more of a purist about these things. There are offices that will they do gimmicky things. Like if you send over, so many people, then they'll put your name in a raffle and you could win a flat screen TV or something like that. And I mean, listen, number one for me, it's more energy than I kind of want to expend on that thing. But to be honest with you, the biggest thing is for me is that if you send me somebody, if you send me your spouse or your parents or your next door neighbor to come in and see me, or my team, I want it to be because you had such a great experience that you have to send somebody that you care about over to my office. I don't want it to be because you want to win a cruise. You know what I mean? And that's that. I want my office to earn that kind of confidence, to earn that kind of trust. And my team, who I think are second to none in the Lehigh Valley, that they kind of give me the confidence to be able to say, listen, you'll know by the end of your first appointment whether this is the place for you or not. And I'd be pretty surprised if you left and you were like, I don't like that place. I'd say more often than not, people are going to be like, wow, this place really blows me away.
And it does. Before we got on here, I was looking at your Instagram followers and your Google reviews, and you're crushing it. I mean, you have 11,000 plus Instagram followers. I think we're sitting pretty at just over 200. And then you got 250 plus Google reviews. I think it was a 4.9. What you're doing is working. And to your point, you're not out there asking for people to do this. They're coming because of the experience they get, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, in a lot of the medical and dental professions, you go somewhere, and I think it's easy to kind of feel like you're being counted as a number. And I tell my team all the time, I want this to be an office where when people come in, after like the first time that they've been here, we don't have to ask that person their name when they go to check in. We can refer to them by their first name, and they know who we are, and we know who they are, and we establish good relationships. And I think that again kind of it propagates this reputation, this sense that like this office is very, very patient experience oriented. And I think
Yeah.
that that's really helped us out as far as Google reviews are concerned. And but we've got to earn it. We've got to work hard for that. And it's taken years. And, circling back to where we were at the beginning of this conversation in 2017, that was really, really difficult. It was very, very hard because you didn't know that many people. But we got very, very busy over the course of a few years. And thankfully now, the office is really thrived.
And the office is growing, and something I think you keep coming back to is the team and how important the team is and how critical the team is to this client experience. What is your hiring process like? Like, what when you think about the team that you're building, what's most important? How are you approaching it?
Yeah. It depends on the position that I'm hiring for. Right now, like I said, when I started, I only had 2 people working with me, and now we're, including myself, I think we're like a dozen people at the office. And if I'm hiring somebody for the front desk, I need to know that that person really has good phone etiquette. Not just that they can pick up a phone and ask the right questions, but that they can ask the questions with the right intonation in their voice. That they can make an easy conversation with somebody. That they can make a complicated treatment plan seem simple. And a lot of that. Sometimes for me, it's almost easier to hire somebody without dental experience for that kind of position, because
Right.
then we can kind of really go from a blank slate and teach them the methodology that we have in the office. But there's a lot that goes into all of that, because there's handoffs, right? So when a person gets brought back by their hygienist and they get a cleaning, or they come over to the doctor's suite to have some work done, the patient has to be walked from place to place, and the hygienist has to interact with one of my dental assistants. The assistants have to interact with the persons the people at the front desk, and all of this has to happen in a way that it's friendly, it's personal, but it's also structured. So it's not just about assessing somebody's skills, which I think is important as well with my team, but it's also assessing how much can this potential employee or team member really bring to that hospitable experience that we're trying to provide.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of team, and we talked about location and how obviously it's still a very physical thing. Like an insurance company, we go back and forth on how important that physical location is, but you need to go into a dentist office.
Yeah.
But the flip side of that is, I don't know if you remember in 2020, there was this big pandemic that went
Yeah.
through. Like, I can't imagine that was easy to run a very personal, a very tactile, a very face-to-face operation. Talk to us about your experience during COVID.
Yeah. Well, we shut down like everybody else did in March
Yeah.
of 2020, and we were shut down for 2 months. And, when I say shut down, I mean like the office really wasn't open. I would check the messages every day or two for emergencies, and I'd have to go in even during the shutdown to treat patients who were having severe pain, infections, swellings. I would take a tooth out or do something, to help a patient get by.
Yeah.
But it was really stressful in some ways because we had no idea what was going to happen. And dentistry is one of those things where I think, it's not an entertainment thing. It's not the sort of thing that people could just do without. So we knew that people were going to need care.
Yeah.
But we also knew that it was one of those, it's an environment where you could make it you could do as much infection control as you want, but when you've got a contagious airborne pathogen running around, the idea of people kind of coming in and opening their mouths and you spraying
Yeah.
air and water in there, it can really freak a lot of people out. I'm still seeing patients that are just now going back to the dentist after COVID, and it's been 3 years plus, and we didn't know what was going to happen, and I had just hired my associate dentist, Dr. Cooper Avage, and a couple of new assistants to join the office. We were expanding the team pretty significantly right around that time, and I laugh because my assistants worked for like 2 days, and then we like shut down.
Oh my
And I
God.
had to basically get on the phone with everybody, and I was like, we'll don't worry, we'll be back. You'll still have a job. It won't be. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, are we? Are you going to have a job? I
Yeah.
have no idea, And we reopened at the end of May, and I don't know. I mean, divine providence, I guess, Jimmy, because starting like that summer, we were never busier. And I thank God I had another like my associate with me to actually help kind of
Yeah.
offset some of that patient load because we had a huge influx of patients. And 2020 and 2021 were very, very busy. A lot of people getting caught up on treatment and things that had gone wrong, and I don't know, a lot of other offices that unfortunately didn't make it. They just kind of shut down. Maybe dentists that were at the end of their career, and
Right.
people were kind of on the lookout for new dentists. So obviously, a very tough time for everybody, and a tragic thing to have happen. Obviously, nobody likes a pandemic, but I think a lot of business owners would say, in a very weird way, that the pandemic also created a surge of business for us in the year or two that followed.
So I know you, and I know you're a very structured person, but disciplined. And I know that you set annual goals for yourself.
Yeah.
2020, were you able to hit those goals, or was that a year where you kind of threw it out the window?
I'm a very, very goal oriented person, Jimmy. I usually write down on my phone at the beginning of every year. I'll write down 4 or 5 things personally and 4 or 5 things from a business perspective that I really want to see achieved that year. And I don't always hit all of them, but that's kind of the whole point, is to really just go kind of try to go over the top with things. And the office grew so much that around 2020, I realized that towards the back end of the year that we were really going to be kind of busy for quite a while. Things were going well, and I told the team, I said, "Hey, listen, if we hit some goals, kind of going into 2021 or through the end of 2021, that we would find a way to celebrate it." And it just so happened we hit our big goals, and it was actually right around the 5-year mark, so it was really 2021. But then, to celebrate, I flew everybody out to the Dominican Republic for a 3-day weekend at an all-inclusive resort. We had a really great time, and
Are you accepting applications right now?
that tends to leave people a little bit sometimes with like their mouths open. They're like, "What?" And
Yeah.
it's great. If you talk to a lot of people in the dental business world, they'll tell you that it can be a really stressful career. I think most people don't love going to the dentist, but going kind of from the other side of the chair and seeing it from a dental team's perspective, it's not an easy job. It's really not. And having a
Yeah.
team that works hard, that creates the kind of experience that you want to create for your patients, you have to treat people well. You have to take care of your employees if you want them to take care of you. You have to take care of your team, and it was as fun for me as it was for them. We had a great time.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I think you're right. Like, building a culture requires that sort of buy-in from the top. Like, if you can check out and just have your team do what they need to do, but unless you're there and invested in them, you're not going to get what you said, like the top in-class talent in the area.
That's it. Yeah.
All right. So talk to me. I mean, you're busy, right? Like, you've got this business. You have 3 kids. How do you manage the balanced work life? I know the demands of all of that can be a lot. So what do you do to make that work?
Yeah, Jimmy, you know as much as I do how much time a family can take from you as far as like with growing kids and all of that. I never used to be a morning person, but I'm up usually around 5:30 every day, and I get a
Yeah.
good workout in. That's the only, honestly, I never used to work out in the morning, and I work out in the morning now 5 days a week. It's the only way that I operate because otherwise I won't have the energy to get through the
I'm the
day.
exact same way. If I don't do it then, it's not happening.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how that happens. But I've got my oldest son is going to be 8 in a few weeks, and I've got a 6-year-old daughter, and I've got a 4-year-old son, and you know, a part of the reason why you work as hard as you do is you want to put yourself in a position to be able to be there and actually do the parenting, and not have to be at the office 24/7, and dentistry can, in the right circumstances, really provide that ability to have that work-life balance. But yeah, I mean, you get used to being busy all the time. I mean, we have a busy day at the office. Sometimes I'll be in the office with a patient, and I'll be doing a 6-hour cosmetic procedure with a patient. I'll be doing a smile makeover, and then I'll come home and I'm folding laundry and doing dishes, and
Yeah.
and it's just, by the time people ask, well, how do you fit it all in? And I think I would say I work out in the morning and I get a good 7 hours of sleep every night. I mean, when my head hits the pillow, I'm out like a light.
Yeah.
But that's the way that I maintain it. And I make sure that I get a little bit of time off too.
That's awesome. So let's talk about the big, I wouldn't call it an elephant, but there's a big announcement from
Yeah.
you. I know about this, and it's super exciting. Your business has obviously been very successful, and you've watched it grow, and grow and grow and grow to the point where I don't think you can fit in the container you put yourself in. So what's next for Hamilton Dental Designs and you?
Yeah, we are in the process now of actually building a brand new office. I haven't even made this announcement officially with our patients yet, but it's we had that
This
space.
is breaking news here.
Oh, it's breaking news.
Here we
'Cause
go.
honestly, it's been so long in the offing with the township and the paperwork and all
Yeah.
these different things that have had to happen. But it's finally looking like it's really coming together. And if you told me back in 2017 when I was sitting around staring at a wall waiting for the phone to ring, hey, in 2023 you're not going to fit in this office anymore. It's going to be too busy and you're going to need more room. I would have laughed. I would have laughed in your face, and I would have said, you're crazy. That's absurd. This place is massive. And I only had at that point 3 of my 5 operatories actually outfitted. The other 2 I didn't even use them. We didn't even have the chairs in there because I didn't need them. But now we have all 5 operatories outfitted. And I need a little bit more space. We're out of parking where we are. We share that building with a couple of other businesses, and so what we're going to do is we purchased a lot a few hundred yards down the street, and we're going to be building our business from the ground up. We're going to have our own building there, and it's going to be great because it's going to allow us to expand a little bit. We're going to have a little bit more. We're going to have a couple of other operatories. I'm not really trying to grow the volume of the practice tremendously in terms of pace. I still want to make sure that we're giving our patients plenty of time and plenty of attention. But the idea is to be able to just have a little bit more room as well for some of the technology and for some of the methods of dentistry that we want to practice, because I'm pretty big on keeping up with the most cutting edge stuff, and some of that stuff requires more chair time, and it means kind of just changing the flow a little bit. So the new office is going to be very conducive for all of that.
That's great. And one thing we didn't cover somehow is, what do you guys do at Hamilton Dental Designs? Is it cleanings? Like, what are you guys doing in terms of the dental offerings?
The office is a complete general dental office. So we do cleanings. We do the regular meat and potatoes dentistry, as I call it.
Yep.
Fillings, crowns. We do extractions. We take out teeth, when it's needed. My wife, the endodontist, the root canal specialist, she comes in 1 day a week and actually does root canal procedures for our patients, which is great because she's a board certified endodontist. She's really great at what she does. I'm biased, but I say that as objectively as I possibly can. She's excellent.
Absolutely.
And one of the things my associate does, just as much as I do in all those regards. We both place implants, in many cases, so we can actually do a lot of those surgical aspects of things. But one of the things that I've delved into a lot in the last several years is actually cosmetic dentistry. And I do a lot of porcelain and composite veneer work. We do a lot of full, smile makeovers. I enjoy that work. It's very impactful work for the patients. And but it also requires kind of being able to view things through a different lens and being able to be very, very hypercritical of things. And so, I've got like you would walk into certain rooms in the office and you'd think that you were in a photography studio because I've got soft boxes and I've got these really nice mirrorless cameras and with huge lenses on them. And I take a lot of photography of the work that I'm doing. And I'm actually going through an accreditation process right now with the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry, which it's a very difficult accreditation process to go through. But if I'm currently a candidate for it, and if I were to achieve the accreditation, I think it would put me in with I think there's less than 500 dentists that actually have that accreditation, and and it would be pretty amazing to be the first person, in this part of Pennsylvania to actually have that.
That's awesome. That's really cool, and it shows. Like I said on your Instagram, clearly the pictures there are top notch, and the work that's happening is top notch. I love the before and afters.
Thanks, Jimmy.
You do great work.
Thank you.
So I'm looking at the clock. We're like out of time. I don't even know how that happened. Let's do. So we are sponsored by basically your next door neighbor, Notch Modern Kitchen and Bar. I am sure you've spent some time there in the past.
I love that place.
Yeah.
Love it.
And so you know about the signature cocktails that they do. So I do the same thing here. We try to kick it up a notch with our guests. And it's been a long week. You've pulled out a lot of teeth, or you've made a lot of teeth look really nice. And so you're getting home on the Friday. It is Friday today. And you're reaching for a drink. What drink is Dr. Jose Gil reaching for?
I've been preparing for this one. I'm going to share my secret. I'm going to share my secret with you. I can drink IPAs with the rest of them. I like a good beer, but I'm a single malt Scotch guy, and the way to do it is a single malt Scotch with a small piece of dark chocolate.
Whoa!
People don't think about that. Get like an 89% cacao, like real dark chocolate, and you just kind of have that, bit by bit with a nice like Oban or Lafroig or something, and it's dynamite.
Wow. I was not ready for that. I think that's the best response I've gotten. I'm taking that one to the bank. I'm going to try that out.
Go for it.
Awesome. Well, I cannot say thank you enough for coming on. I think when a lot of people hear dentistry, their eyes probably glaze over a little bit, but what you've done has made it so exciting. You've really taken a business and grown it, and so you're a perfect guest for this. So thank you for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me, Jimmy. Very, very appreciated.
Absolutely. All right. I'll see ya.
See you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the YMI Talking podcast. If you enjoyed this and want to hear more content from amazing personalities in the Valley, please subscribe, leave a rating, and drop us a quick review.